Good afternoon, everyone. Excuse me. I'm Ed Gallagher. I'm president of the American Scandinavian Foundation, and it is my very great pleasure to welcome you to this afternoon with Isabella Rossellini and Stig Björkman. Today, we are honored to be joined by the acclaimed actor, filmmaker, writer, and longtime friend of ASF and Scandinavia House, Isabella Rossellini. Hello, Isabella. Pardon my back. She will be joining in conversation with the Swedish director and writer Stig Björkman for a wide-ranging exploration of her career, family legacy, cinema, and creative expression. Isabella, I'm sure, needs no introduction to anyone here. The daughter of the legendary Swedish actress Ingrid Bergman and Italian filmmaker Roberto Rossellini, she has carried forward an extraordinary artistic heritage that bridges cultures and generations. Deeply connected to her Swedish roots, she continues to celebrate her mother's legacy while creating her own path as one of today's most distinctive voices in film and art. And we were just reminiscing about an exhibition we had here in 2004 entitled Here's Looking at You, Kids, selections from the Ingrid Bergman collection, which Isabella helped to put together. This afternoon's program will include a selection of film clips highlighting key moments in Isabella's life and career. It will feature some clips from Ingrid Bergman in her own words, and will reflect on her mother's life and influence, as well as Isabella's own acclaimed life and performances and collaborations with directors such as David Lynch and Guy Maddin. She will also share insights into the legacy of her father, whose groundbreaking film, Rome, Open City, celebrates its 80th anniversary this year. In addition to a remarkable career, Isabella will tell us a bit about her academic work in ethology, her lifelong passion for animals, and her ongoing creative and environmental work at Mama Farm, her organic farm and artistic haven on Long Island. We're very fortunate that Isabella is joined this afternoon for this conversation by Stig Björkman, who has written extensively on film and himself directed several movies, including the very well-known and acclaimed film Georgia, Georgia from 1972, which was written by Maya Angelou. And more recently, he has, and very pertinent for today, he has directed the documentary Ingrid Bergman in Her Own Words. Today's program is one of many special programs that are being presented as a celebration of the 25th anniversary of Scandinavia House. Exactly 25 years ago, 2 days ago, Scandinavia House was dedicated. Since that time, we have welcomed over 3 million visitors and presented over 3,000 programs, including lectures, seminars, films, concerts, and a wide variety of children's events. Over the years, Scandinavia House has remained committed to the sharing of the richness and diversity of Nordic culture, fully in keeping with the mission of the American Scandinavian Foundation when it was founded in 1911. And we're very fortunate that the 25th anniversary year programs are supported by the Monica and Charles Heimbold Fund for exhibitions and programs. Monica's here with us, and we are very grateful to you for this. So it's programs like these that would not be possible without the support of all of our donors. Following the program, there was a reception up in Volvo Hall, so I hope you'll all come up and join us for that. But now, with no further ado, please welcome Isabella Rossellini and Stig Björkman.
Okay. Very, very nice to be here, and very nice to be here with you, Isabella. And maybe we should start from the beginning. Yes. And when I say the beginning, it's the year 2015. You remember? It was the centenary of your mother, and I had finished this film about your mother, which in its Swedish title is I Am Ingrid, which I think maybe is better than the American one, Ingrid Bergman, in her own words, because I Am Ingrid says so much about your mother. So we celebrated her in Stockholm at the Royal Dramatic Theatre on her 100-year anniversary. And they opened the theater for once to show a movie, the movie we made together. So maybe we should see how the whole thing started in the movie and also in the life of your mother. So can we see the first clip? Yeah. Yeah.
It was a very tragic beginning, Mama. Yeah. Mama lost her mother when she was 2 years old and lost her father when she was 12 years old. She went to live with an aunt, and she died 6 months later. And those little by little, all her family died. And I think she found great solace in acting that came to her when she was about 18.
Yes. And it's quite amazing the courage of your mother also. I've been thinking about that, and of course you must have thought about it as well, because she entered the theatre school at the Royal Dramatic Theatre in Stockholm when she was 18. And she was very curious. So during this first year, she went out to the film studios, which were a bit outside Stockholm, the Svensk Film Industry studios, and asked them if they might have a part for her. So they made a screen test. This, I think, was the spring after her first year at the Royal Dramatic Theatre School. And they said they liked the screen test, and they offered her a part in the next movie, which were going to be shot that summer. So your mother came back to the theatre, and she said, I have been offered this part, and I want to play this role. And the headmaster of the school said, it's totally forbidden. You who are studying here, theatre here, you have to go all 3 years. After that, you can choose theatre or film. And what did your mother say?
My mother went to make the film. And she was right. She met Gustav Molander.
Yeah, no, the headmaster said, of course, it was forbidden. And what happens? She makes film after film, 2 films a year. And I think after her 4th or 5th film, she gets a letter from the Dramatic Theatre wondering, could Miss Bergman think about having a guest role at the theatre? And her answer, of course, was, no, thank you. So after 8 or 10 years there, she made a film in Germany, and then she was asked to come to Hollywood.
See, what happened was that Greta Garbo has decided to stop her career, so Hollywood was in desperation of looking for another Swede, because they are known to be beautiful ladies, blonde and blue eyes. And Kay Brown, that was working with David Selznick, went to Stockholm in searching of a new Greta Garbo, and saw my mother, bought originally a film and remade it here, incredibly enough, with completely another actress. And the following year, she saw a second film with Mama, and that was Intermezzo. And she took Intermezzo, which was remade in the American version, and also Mama. And I think we have the screen test. No.
Yeah, first I think we have the trip to Hollywood, and then comes the screen test, which is beautiful. Yeah. Okay, so if we can turn down the light and see the next clips. It's beautiful.
I found it so touching. You can really see right into her soul and what a wonderful person she was. I think there is an honesty in front of the camera. You told me today when we were driving here about the film with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yes, it's so funny because maybe you have seen Phantom Thread with Vicky Krieps in the main part. And I happen to know her, so she told me this story that when she met the director, he said, the only way you have to prepare yourself is to watch this scene, this screen test of Ingrid Bergman. That's enough.
And she did capture that kind of honesty and innocence and be there, right there. She did a fantastic job. Yeah. I didn't know this was the muse, this little clip.
I know later on you will show something from her Hollywood career, but now she made, what, a dozen films in Hollywood or so. And in the end, she wanted to do something else. I mean, she was an adventurer in so many respects. So she wrote this famous letter to your father, and he invited her to come to Italy and to make a film there. So that's the next part.
Next clip, then I tell you
Or
what was the comment at home.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, so Mama had this incredible, so the letter that she says, I love you, because then they fall in love. So the press also made a romance about it, saying Ingrid Bergman fell in love just watching Roberto Rossellini's film, because Italian men are irresistible, so it became a kind of a national pride in Italy. But actors do write to directors and say, I've seen your film, I love it very much, would you please see, I mean, it's a back and forth. Sometimes director write to me saying, I don't have a project, but I like your work, so let's meet, let's have coffee. Mama for sure didn't know that she was going to end up loving my dad. They made 5 films together and 3 children. Me is one of them. It was a huge scandal, though.
It was.
There's a clip about that, or should we just talk about the scandal?
No. Let's talk about the scandal as well.
Mama was married and had a daughter, my older sister Pia, when she fell in love with my dad. And in Stromboli, she became pregnant with my brother Roberto, and before she could obtain a divorce. So that was a huge scandal at the time. And Mama had a Swedish citizenship. She didn't have an American citizenship. So she became persona non grata. She was not allowed to come back to the United States for 8 years. All her money was confiscated and gave it to her first husband to support my sister and himself. And Mother became box office poison. Her films were banned. In fact, one of the films that she has made with my father, Viaggio in Italia, Trip to Italy, was reviewed by the New York Times only about 3 years ago. And he got a good review. So I didn't know, I said, thank you, but but also it took a long time because the film were banned. And so it was a very difficult moment in her life.
No, true. And it took, I think, 8 years until she made another American movie, which was Anastasia.
But they shot in London because
it was shot in London. And her upcoming movies, also like Aimez-vous Brahms, was shot in Paris. So it took a very long time before she went back to Hollywood to make
Anastasia,
anything.
she won Mama won 3 Oscars. Anastasia won her 2nd Oscar. And she couldn't come to pick up the award. Cary Grant picked it up for her. But she was, by the time she got the Oscar for Anastasia, people or Americans had started to forgive her. So she did come to New York. She didn't go all the way to Hollywood. And then slowly, she got her visas and a possibility. But she never wanted to come back and live here. She remained in Europe. She lived mostly in France and then in England.
Yeah, that's true. And by the way, the voice you hear here, reading from the diaries and the letters of your mother, is another well-known Swede, Alicia Vikander, who was the second Swedish actress who got an Oscar after your mother. So it took some time, but by the end of her very long and impressive career, Ingrid Bergman came back to make another Swedish film, though it was not shot in Stockholm, in Sweden, but in Norway, but directed by our other big Bergman, Ingmar Bergman, Autumn Sonata.
And you know, Stig, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You know how the Mama was the president of the Cannes Film Festival, and she slipped a note into Bergman's pocket, Ingmar Bergman, saying, "We are the two Bergmans that are known internationally. We should make a film together." So she's kept on writing those notes.
No, I remember, that's true. So the last clip I have to present is from Autumn Sonata, which I think is really one of your mother's greatest performances. And here she is the mother of Liv Ullmann. Yeah, it's amazing. And watching the eyes of your mother and the change in them while she's listening, I think it's magical.
The clip started with me talking about a documentary. Sven Nykvist, that was the cinematographer, has photographed, filmed in his camera Ingmar and my mom, the two big Swedes, working together. And when she saw the documentary back, she realized that she was very argumentative, or she said, as I said in the documentary, that sometimes she said the truth and is very cutting. And can I tell about Liv? And when I actually it was the year I met you. So the year I met Stig, it was at the Berlin Film Festival, and there was a screening of Autumn Sonata with Liv Ullmann. And they said, "Oh, can you go just to introduce it? Liv is introducing the film, but you may want to be there and say a few words." So Liv and I went up on stage, and I said my mom always wanted to work with a great genius of Swedish films, and she was so happy. And this is the last feature film she did before she died, and she was super happy. Liv. This film, Ingmar Bergman had such a machista point of view. He didn't think women should work, and she started. And so I was so surprised because I was so used to always just say the genius. And Mother actually confronted Bergman while on the set. So the story is of a very famous pianist player, played by my mother, who goes back home, and the daughter, played by Liv Ullmann, confronts her at night, saying, "For your success and your career, we were left alone, and this is how much we've suffered." And Liv has a very long monologue where she accuses her mother of all she did in the name of her career. And because it was her talking and it was a difficult scene, Ingmar started with the camera on Liv. Then he put the camera on my mom, to her close-up, reacting. And he said, "Ingrid, what will you do, when you hear all this?" And Mama said, "I would slap my daughter." This is what Liv was telling me at the Berlin Fair. "I would slap my daughter. That should shape up your life." So Ingmar didn't want that. He wanted, of course, her to crumble and understand how horrible she had been. But so they left the set fighting. And Liv told me, nobody has ever argued with Ingmar that way. And we heard them, leaving the set, and we heard them screaming back and forth, and we were all waiting. And then they came back, and he had won, because that was his film. But, she said, Liv, the close-up of Mama not answering, not slapping, but the anger in her eyes for having one more time being repressed, being told what to do. And now even the daughter, she said it was such a feminist statement, such a women's strength. So I always loved that Liv interpretation of that scene.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah. And I remember now, I haven't seen my documentary for a long time. There is a scene where you see Ingrid Bergman leave, and Ingmar is also leaving different
because
directions.
Sven, the cinematographer, was there filming, so there is this documentation of them screaming, and Sven kept on filming everybody on the set. I don't know, stunned. And Mama discovering that she was opinionated. She was incredibly shy, and she always told me, like a lot of actors tell me, that are shy, but when they act, they are not themselves, and they are relieved from that feeling of embarrassment and shyness. And Mama always told me that she felt like a lion when on stage or on the set, and that she always said that acting was a calling. It wasn't something that she chose. Acting chose her. She had to do it. And in fact, so much so that I didn't want my mom not to work, and I wanted my mom to work because I could see that she was very happy. And it was so happy that I said, I am going to do what she does when I'm a grown-up.
Yeah, that's good. But wasn't it so? She went to make a movie and was away for 2 months or something like that, and then she came home and she was just mother. And
Yes,
yeah,
my mama,
for a couple of
I had a
weeks
very
until the next movie.
Yes. So it was a strange arrangement. Mama and Papa, they had 3 children. My brother Roberto, my twin sister Ingrid, and I. And but they both got remarried and had children with their new spouses. Not Mama, but my father. So they got an apartment in Rome for us, where we lived with a babysitter and a housekeeper, and they would come and stay with us when they were not filming or when they were not with the new family. So it was a strange arrangement. I liked it because the living room, I transformed it into a playroom, the biggest one. I had a place to dance and to punch. And for me, I had a dog. I got all the dogs from the street. So I liked it, and they were present. And I have to say that I got very sick when I was 13. I didn't get sick. I was born with a deformity of the spine called scoliosis that needed to be operated. So for about 1.5 years, I was in the hospital. And Mother stopped working to be close to me. So I always profoundly knew that if I needed my parents, they would have been there to help me. I think some of my brothers and sisters, they don't feel what I feel. They felt that they wish that Mom and Papa had been with us a little bit longer or more, not so dedicated to their work. But it's not my feeling. I was happy.
So one of your mother's Hollywood films were The Bells of St. Mary, where she is a nun. And you have recently been a nun as well.
Exactly. Thank you. So
Oscar nominated, yeah.
yes,
So
this is a photo that I found in Instagram, and I put it on my Instagram account. I don't know how to edit it like that, but it is Mother as a nun in a Bing Crosby film, the Bells of St. Mary's, and me in last year's film Conclave, and where I got my first Oscar nomination. Would have been, and I heard that I didn't win, but if I won, we were going to be the first mother-daughter winning.
next time.
And then when the Pope died, incredibly enough, I received phone calls from the press asking me, what I made of it, who I think was going to be the next Pope. Because I play a very authoritarian nun. So I thought they were still influencing the Vatican. But no, I said, we play pretend.
So in a month's time, you will be back in Stockholm, because then it's the Stockholm Film Festival starts in mid-November, and it has been dedicated to the memory of David Lynch, and you were in 2 of David's movies, so that's the next.
Yeah, we're having a clip from Blue Velvet, which is probably my most famous film. So here it is. So, thank you. So when Blue Velvet came out, it was incredibly controversial. I think it was the first time that maybe we portrayed a battered woman there are some scenes of me nude, walking in the street with black and blue, but I think the nudity was still seen in films like something appealing, something sexy. So the people that didn't like the film didn't understand that nudity, and the film was, we were really very, very badly criticized. It was really difficult. I was fired from my agency. My film agency fired me, saying we do not represent porno.
I didn't know that. No, amazing.
And for years, I didn't have an agent. And then, I was so amazed that 25, I don't know when it was, but the 25th anniversary of Blue Velvet, MoMA has given a screening to honor this film that has now become a classic. I went with hesitation, thinking, but it was wonderful to work with David, and Laura Dern is still a very good friend of mine. And I have to tell you about an anecdote, because even the daughter of a great actress like Ingrid Bergman can be fooled. Laura Dern, before Blue Velvet, had made a film called The Mask, with Bogdanovich was the director. And she played a blind girl. And when David hired me to do Blue Velvet, he called me to say, I have the ingenue who is going to be Laura Dern. And since I've seen David Lynch's first film, Eraserhead, and I knew he had a tendency to kind of surrealism, I thought, how interesting that he gets an ingenue and a blind actress, because maybe she doesn't see yet. So when I first met Laura, she said, "How are you?" And I grabbed her hand. And then there was a step, and I said, "Laura, there's a step now, be careful." She said, "I can see it." "What?" I said, "You can see it and you're not blind?" She said, "No, I'm not blind." "Oh, you're not blind?" I said, "Why you say that?" And I said, "But in Mask, you played blind." I said, "But an actress. See what I mean? What a good actress can do for you." She fooled me, Ingrid Bergman's daughter. I thought Laura Dern was blind.
That's good, yeah.
So it was wonderful to work with David. It was a collaboration. There was a trust, and I think he allowed me he had an idea of who the character should be. He said to me, a woman that is unpredictable, that there is a very big darkness. But it's hard to play that as an actor. You cannot play darkness and mystery. You have to anchor your character to a story. Not that David wanted to know the story, that I created it in my head about Dorothy Valance, but he could react to what he had seen. And so I was particularly proud and happy that David helped me create the look of Dorothy Valance, the character. The red lipstick, the wig, the blue eyeshadow. I mean, of course, there is also a makeup artist and a costume designer, and we all work together. But I thought that I had to look like a doll because I had to have a facade that was hiding the great mystery, the great secret of my life, and that is that I'm ritualistically raped, and I'm really ashamed of it. And so I create this character. And like my mother, I feel happy and free when I am on stage and I can sing, because there is the moment where nothing could happen to me. And then when I am at home, alone, any moment, the character of Dennis Hopper can come and rape me and threaten me. And so I'm very tormented when I'm alone and a star on stage.
The first time we met, there were also Guy Maddin and his wife, and some time later on he made this fantastic movie, My Dad is 100 Years Old, together with you, and you have continued to make similar short films. I don't know if you got the idea from this first film, or but you have continued to do small short films over the years.
The 100 anniversaries is a big thing. So that's how I met Stig. I was at the Berlin Film Festival, and soon it was going to be my mother, centennial. Mama was born August 29, 1915. And so I wanted to do something for 2015 to honor my mom. And when I met Stig, I said, because I've seen his work as a documentarist, I say, would you consider to make a documentary about my mama? We can open your archive, which is kept at Wesleyan University in Connecticut. And Mama, she was the daughter of a filmmaker, not a filmmaker, a photographer, and she took a lot of photos. And also, when she was growing up, they invented the 16 millimeter camera, and so she always had this 16 millimeter camera and took a lot of home movies, and they've then never been seen, and that's why I think the film is entitled in English, Ingrid on Her Own Words, because it's also, there is a lot of footage that she shot herself. And the reason why I'd asked Stig is that when my father was 100 years, would have been 100 years old, which was a little earlier, in 2006, my father was born May 8th, 1906, I had made a film with Guy Maddin that I've written. And I've written my father. I didn't know who could play my father. And I thought maybe of my father as a rising moon, a planet, a Buddha belly. And so it was a huge belly. My father was a talking huge belly. And then Guy Maddin, and then it was talking to other director, debating what is the film's about and what it is to be an artist. And Guy said, well, let's not hire actors. You play all the directors. So I put hats and mustache and different wigs, and I play different directors. And I made a 20-minute film with Guy Maddin called My Dad is 100 Years Old. But my family got really mad. So that's why 10 years later I asked Stig, you make the film about Mama, because if I do it, who knows what they say. But then that film gave me, working with Guy Maddin is a very avant-garde Canadian filmmaker who has very few people on the set. And I think that if I lived in a different time, maybe now, if I was younger now, I would have been a director, because I like more than acting, I like telling stories and narrative. So working with Guy and with 6 or 7 people and making this film with him about my dad, I thought I can make short film that I can direct. And I made a series called Green Porno, and then it was very successful on YouTube, and so then it became another series called Seduce Me and Mamas, where I play animals, because I love animals. I was born with this color hair and, oh no, now there's dyed. This color, this color hair and also love for animals. And Robert Redford is involved. So this year for me has been very, very hard, because I lost 3 of the people that were mentor or helped me so much. David Lynch, who died during the fire. I think he died right before his birthday in January. Bob Wilson, with whom I worked in the theater and collaborated every year with him at his art center in Watermill. And now Robert Redford. Robert Redford, as you know, has a Sundance Film Festival, but also there is a Sundance Institute and a Sundance Channel where he did a lot of avant-garde film. His idea of the Institute was to allow mostly students for the university to make the leap between the ending of the university into professional life, but also people that wanted to change career, like me, who was an actress, but now wanted to attempt to be a director. And he said to me, I want to make short film series, because he was enchanted by silent movies. And the films now, they all have to be an hour or 50 minutes long to be a series, or an hour and a half to 2 hours. And the short films that Chaplin did, you can't really distribute nowadays. But YouTube has just started, and Redford had a very confidence that short film will find a new audience. And so he commissioned several of us that were associated with Sundance to make a series of short film. And he said, if they are about the environment, I would even be more inclined to finance them because he was very committed environmentalist. And now I get a little lamp in my head. I said, green porno. It's me, a close-up. If I am a fly and I transform myself like in an origami costume, I fly, I would mate that way and then show how the flies would mate. And in nature, anything is possible. There is hermaphrodite, there are animals that change sex. They're called sequential hermaphrodites. Anything happened. And so they became quite comical. And my intention was to make people laugh. And so I made a series, and the series worked so well, I made about 50 short films. And I brought to you 2 of them. The first one that I will show you, Bob Redford wanted me to make a film in one of my short films. In America, it was just passed a law that allowed gay people to marry. Or it was about to pass. It was debated. And he wanted to do a film that would encourage it. So this is my film. It's 3 minutes long. Noah's Ark.
But you have also taken an exam in here in
Oh yes, so
New
know,
York
because
University.
Yes, so because I worked all my life as a model and as an actress, acting started later because I was a little bit intimidated by my mom's reputation. So I felt very comfortable as a model, but I only started to really seriously act in my late 20s, which is pretty late for actresses. But when I hit 50, there wasn't really any work as a model and very little work as an actress. So instead of getting depressed, I went back to university to study what I wanted to study when I was young, but it wasn't available at the time, which is the science of ethology, the science of animal behavior. So I did graduate from Hunter College, and I have a master's degree in animal behavior and conservation, and also started my farm, which is not far from here, 60 miles from here in Long Island, called Mama Farm, where sometime I've been here at the Scandinavian House talking about wool, chickens, sheep. That's my other life, besides being an actress. Yeah, so I'm a scientist, too. Thank you. No. And then the last clip that I have is from a series called Mamas, where, is it from the series Mama? I'm just thinking, because I made so many series. And the first green porno, all my film, people called them green porno, but we couldn't find advertisement because of the word porno. So we changed the name. It was similar in more or less, the same theme, but we called it first Seduce Me, then Mama was specifically about maternal behavior, but still people called them green porno, no matter what, and I still haven't found any advertisement. But both Stig and my film are in the Criterion channel, that if you don't have, I highly recommend you go. But your film is also at Amazon.
Yes, and also you can find on YouTube many
YouTube, yes.
many
but
of
it's
your
not so good in YouTube
short
because
films.
They are in YouTube because everything is in YouTube, but sometimes it's cut or it's not curated correctly. So, but I did choose one for you about the piping plover. That is a bird that lives on the east coast, on our coast. He has just left, migrate south in the winter, and it lies. Or it acts. It pretends to be wounded to attract the predator away from the nest and then flies off. And that's how his defense mechanism to protect the babies. And in this film, it always starts with me doing something and then saying, if I only were, and I quote an animal, a tiger, a salmon, I transform myself into the animal and I come back to what I was. So this is the last clip because it's dedicated to my mother. Here is the piping plover. And now we're ready if you have any questions to answer your question. Is there any question? Yes, sir? Yes?
Why did you stay in the United States rather than go back to Sweden?
Oh, Italy. Yes, so I was born in Rome, and I stayed in Rome and did all my schooling in Rome. But for a period when my parents divorced and I was 3 years old, where we went to Paris, and between 3 and 8, I stayed in Paris with Mama. But Mama remarried, so it was, and she started living in the country, and the school was in the city, so it was all this car drive. Then father and mother fought, and they said it's better to go back to Italy, where the family's there. And then I came when I was 18 to New York, because my Mama was on Broadway. And I didn't speak English. And Mama was desperate that I would speak English. And I don't speak Swedish either. I apologize. But Mama was determined that we would speak English. And so I came, studied, fell in love, remained, then fell again in love, and then had children. And I remained in the United States. And here I am. I go frequently to Europe. But this is where I live since I was 18. Yes, ma'am? Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Rossellini. My name is Libby Roy. I'm an internal medicine addiction medicine doctor. Your mother clearly went through a lot of trauma from a very early age, grief and loss, and navigated that through a very successful career. You yourself had your own childhood illness, surgery, a very atypical kind of childhood and life. So I'm wondering, how do you navigate the stressors of Hollywood life and a mother, father who weren't always around, and how do you manage that pressure and challenge, and how do you take care of yourself? Thank you.
I brush my teeth. I brush my hair. I don't know. Everybody has a life that is good and bad, so we all have to navigate it, and some have it really very bad. And I think I had a little bit of bad, but most of it is wonderful. I don't know. I mean, I do not like red carpets at all. I'm very tired of giving interviews, but very tired, like so tired that I think sometimes that I will change career, not to give another interview. And I seriously think about it. Because nowadays also there is the press, there is the podcast, there is the influencer, it's incredible. Last year, when Conclave was the film Conclave had 8 Oscar nominations, including mine. I asked my PR, because you have to have a PR, because so many demand. I said, how many interviews I'm giving? I feel I'm giving interviews all day long. I don't do anything else. He said, well, about 600. Yeah. So I am thinking about changing career. Yes. So mother actually became very successful in Sweden with Gustav Molander, a very established Swedish director. And she was asked, because my mom's mother, Friedel, was from Hamburg in Germany. So she did do one film in Germany right at the beginning of Hitler power. And I remember Mama, and she writes this in her biography, that the other actor was whispering to her, because she was offered to do another film, don't stay, it's really bad, it's getting really bad. And she went back to Sweden, where she was married and had a big career, but she wanted to she wanted to have an international career. And this is also when she was so lucky, because Kay Brown, who was the agent for David Selznick, came to look for the new Greta Garbo. And so she did leave Sweden to get on, I think it was the Rex, the transatlantic, the sheep that came here, not the sheep, not I never, because in Italian it's really difficult to make those E's that you have in American. So there are certain words like ba and that I can sound the same. She got them and came to America and then remained because of the war. But I think that Mother, when she was in Hollywood, she was not happy. And she did have a very strong friendship, even I would say an affair, with Robert Capa, the great photographer, World War II photographer. And my feeling is that when Mama saw my father's film, Open City and Paesa, she saw Robert Capa's film. Robert Capa is the great photographer they took the famous photo in Normandy, for all this out-of-focus photo of the landing in Normandy. And and she also was half German. So I think she did feel that working with my father was restoring something in her that was devastated by the war. And in Hollywood, although Casablanca is a wonderful film, myself, I was surprised to see the refugees going to the Ritz Cafe, all dressed up, with perfect hair. And I think it was a fantasy that was wonderful, but there was also part of Mama that wanted to. In fact, she was one of the first Hollywood people that went to entertain the troops, the American troops in Germany after the war. And I have to tell you one little anecdote that she tells. She lands in Paris, and they were all staying at the Ritz Hotel. And so Mama arrives at the Ritz Hotel, and Marlene Dietrich is leaving the Ritz Hotel. And the war is over. Mama goes to entertain the troops. And Marlene Dietrich said to Mama, now you're coming.
It's funny, there are some similarities between your mother and Greta Garbo, our other big Swedish film star, because she made one Swedish film, and then she was offered a part in Germany, and she made the Joyless Street by Pabst before going with her director Maurice Stiller to Hollywood. And also, she made more films in Hollywood, like 20 or something, and was offered to do something else by Visconti in Italy. She made a test film, and the film was never made, and so she tired of being a Hollywood actress, and she stopped her career. Had she been maybe more adventurous like your mother, she might have come to Europe, to Italy, or wherever, and continued her career, but she stopped instead.
Yeah, couldn't take it anymore. She must have given 800 interview that year. Yes, yeah.
Michelle Williams plays your current part in the Broadway musical. Did you really like doing that film?
Which film, I'm sorry?
Death Becomes Her?
Yes, Death Becomes Her. Death Becomes Her is by the great director Robert Zemeckis. And only now, maybe it's 25 years later, he has become very successful. A lot of people always talk to me about Blue Velvet and David Lynch. But sometimes, when the Instagram gives you the feed of what other people are writing about you, there is more written about Death Becomes Her. Now there is the musical on Broadway that was hugely successful. And so there is a whole revival. What we didn't know is that because Robert Zemeckis has done film like Roger Rabbit and Forrest Gump. So we did the film. It was always conceived as a film for family, but it actually became a cult film for the gay community. It really celebrates the film. We just did with the producer, John Gore, we did a new film with Joan Collins, who is 93 years old. Joan and I just finished a film about Wally Simpson's, the American divorcee that King Edward renounces the throne to be married to her. And they are testing it now on audience to see if it liked. And John said to me, okay, you and Joan have your audience of women 40 and up. And I said, no, John. Yes, we have that group. But have you tested the film on the gay community? Because me, Joan, and Wallace, we get them all age. So he said, good idea. So we'll see what will happen. Any other question? Yes.
So you have an incredible sense of humor. What do you attribute it to?
Well, I like to laugh. That is so I'm cultivating. I like to laugh, and when I write my own things, it takes a long time to write. Stig writes all the time, and you're along with yourself writing, and I have to make myself laugh. That's why most of my films are comical, because otherwise, you can go down a sad rabbit hole. I don't want to be there. Well, how do you write? Well, some people write drama. I don't know how they do it, so stay the darkness all the time. How do you write? Do you write and every day at the same hour? Do you have a routine?
No, sometimes I go up in the morning and I say, now I will continue to write whatever I stopped writing yesterday. But strangely enough, there are so many other things you have to do before. So sometimes it happens that I've had dinner and coffee after dinner, and it's already 8:30, and I start writing, and then I think it's too late to yeah. I'll continue tomorrow instead. Do you recognize any of that? No.
No, I wrote a kind of again, I didn't know that I had maybe now I know why I got along with David Lynch so much, because there is a surrealistic streak in me when I write, but I didn't know that. But I was asked to write a kind of a biography of myself. This was when Lancôme, that is the big cosmetic company, did not renew the contract because at 42 they thought I was too old to represent women. I was also dropped by my agent. I didn't have any jobs, and so my guardian angel lawyer said, why don't you write something about yourself? It's not a biography because you finished your life, but something about how you work, because it might be a blueprint that will give you an idea of how to continue. And I didn't know how to write, but at the time, I was in touch with the great Bob Gottlieb, who was the editor-in-chief of the New Yorker and of Knopf. And the reason why I was in touch with him is that he was best friend with Irene Selznick, David Selznick, their producer, wife. And Irene Selznick was my mother's best friend. And so Bob, who had inherited or was looking at Irene Selznick's paper, had all my mother's letter in Irene's office, house. And I had all Irene's letter that Irene wrote to my mom. So we compared the letters to see if there was a possible book about these two women that were so extraordinary. I mean, Irene was Louis B. Mayer's daughter, David Selznick's wife, but she produced a streetcar named Desire and discovered Marlon Brando. So she was an amazing woman too. The letter between the two were not interesting, so we did not write the book. Well, how are you? Did you try this new shampoo? All the children, Isabella got a very bad notice, and now at Christmas we are going to play Santa Claus. It was very boring. Nothing about the work and the process of how they work. So the book didn't come out. But I asked Bob, how do you write? Because I feel like you, especially in New York. There's so many temptations. There's so many interesting things that you start writing. And the first obstacle, you say, wow, I can go to the Scandinavian House and see a fantastic exhibit. I can go to MoMA. There is a theater. And you say, who am I to think I can write? Let's go see these things. And with that, you never really sit down and write. And Bob Gottlieb, if you ever want to write, gave me the recipe. It's fantastic. He said, you wake up, you choose 3 hours a day, always the same 3 hours. You lock yourself away in front of a white piece of paper with a pen, and you write. And sometimes you don't. Sometimes the next day, what you wrote, you're ashamed and you throw away. And this is what I did. I woke up early in the morning, around 5, because the children wake up, and then they woke me, then they need too many needs. I woke up at 5, and from 5 to 8, I wrote in my garage. And my little book called Some of Me Came to Be. And still today, I use that recipe when I have to write my scripts, like the short films you've seen. Any other questions? There was a question.
Any more questions?
I just am so moved to be
So we started about 10 years ago. It's called Mama Farm, because everybody calls it Isabella's Farm. But I said, I don't want to be called Isabella's Farm because then I die, and then they say, who's this Isabella, you know? Unless you, I don't know, you put me in bond. I imagine you're like this for Madeline in a big tube in front of the farm. Then they know, oh, that was the original owner. And it's organic practice. And a woman called Patty Gentry was a chef, wanted to become a grower, and I started to collaborate with her. And she had all these heirlooms, old seeds, so that we don't sell the spinach you can find at the supermarket, but different spinach that you may not find because industrial farming doesn't pick it up because they don't have a long shelf life, or they rotten too fast, or they bruise into transportation. So we have all these varieties. And I discovered that the same thing happens with animals. We eat the eggs of one type of chicken, we eat the meat of one type of chicken because it's the fattest, or the breed that lays at least 300 eggs per year. And a lot of breeds of animals, farm animals, are going extinct, diminishing the biodiversity. And so I started a collection of different heritage breed of sheep, goats, and ducks, and I have bees too. And so many people came, and mostly mothers with children, and also that's how we got the name. We are open on Saturday. We have 9 to noon. We have a farmer's market. We're in the little village between Bellport and Brookhaven, Mama Farm.
And that's in Bellport.
In Bellport, yeah. Bellport, Brookhaven. They're two little towns, and I'm really on the cusp of the two. Yeah.
Wonderful, great. Any more questions? One more there.
No, I would like to make a short film series like the one you've seen about domestication, because we have changed animals to make them useful to us. A wild chicken lays 10 eggs per year. Now a domestic chicken nowadays lays between 150 and 300. So by selecting in 10,000 years, long process, the hens that were more fertile, now we have modified the species, and a domestic version of the chicken lays so much. The same thing with the fleece of the sheep. The wild one, they don't have at all that kind of coat. So we have changed. I mean, the one that changed the most is the dog. It used to be a wolf, and the wolf eat us. And now the dog is man's best friend. So you can just modify by using the malleability that evolution offers. Animal can be modified.
It's fascinating. Well, I think one more question there.
But I feel very moved. There's not very many women who have persisted in their curiosity the way you have.
Well, curiosity was key. I think curiosity, I always say curiosity is my engine and it's fueled by laughter. Because sometimes curiosity can also lead you to saying, but then if you laugh about it, you'll find your way. But curiosity really always relieved me from any depression. You know, yes, it was sad not to be a model and an actress and being marginalized. But then when I start following my interest in animals, and then Bob Redford heard about it and reached out. He said, you know, there are things happening as long as you follow your curiosity, and things fall into place, and it's always very joyful.
It's a great, great way to end the conversation. Isabella, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. And Stig, thank you very, very much. A real highlight of our 25th anniversary year. And Isabella, you're fantastic and an inspiration to us all, male, female, or whatever. Thank you. And please join us for a reception on the second floor, Volvo Hall. And again, thank you so much.